Hello everyone, welcome to today's webinar. We'll be waiting a few minutes to wait for attendees to join.
Hello everyone.
Hello Adrian, welcome. Okay, great. So I think we can kick off this exciting session of today. So today's webinar is on the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, so CSRD. It is co-hosted by SIA Partners and Greenly. So hi everyone, I'm Noemi Billion. I'm the head of US Business Development for Greenly, and I'm thrilled to introduce you to what's not just a regulatory challenge, but also an incredible opportunity to redefine success metrics and future-proof your business. Our speakers today are myself and include my esteemed colleague Adrian Dickel, North America Director of Customer Success and Sales at Greenly.
Hi everyone, very happy to be here. Yeah, looking forward to a great conversation about CSRD.
We're very happy to have you. And from Judy Sanford, Managing Director, ESG Strategy and Communications at SIA Partners. Welcome. And from Urvashi Kola, ESG Lead and Senior Sustainability Strategist at SIA Partners.
Yeah, hi. I work with Judy and have over 20 years of ESG sustainability related experience working in government, nonprofit, private sector, academia, and excited to join the conversation. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Urvashi. So in today's session, we'll demystify CSRD, walk through its key requirements and implications for US companies, and provide actionable insight on how to approach compliance effectively. But first, to kick off this session, let's dive into an interactive self-assessment icebreaker to help you determine whether CSRD compliance is relevant to your organization, and to help us kind of assess who's in the assembly, and to then tailor our comments. At any point of the presentation, if you want to shoot your question, we will go through them for the Q&A sessions. Just also some gatekeeping elements. We're going to be sharing this presentation at the end of the webinar. So let's dive into it.
I'll be keeping an eye on the chat, so feel free to jump in at any point. We'll have some time at the end of the session too for Q&A, but we'll definitely welcome questions as they come.
Totally.
And we'll be distributing the deck afterwards. So yes, there's a lot of information in here.
This warm-up game is to assess if you are required to comply to CSRD. So there will be 4 questions. The score is just arbitrary. It's for me to then provide a score and be able to range you in categories. So you just need to add up your score points, and then at the end of the day, you're going to see if you need to comply or not. First question is your company listed on a regulated market in the European Union? If yes, you win 100 points. If no, you have no points so far. Second question is, has your company generated a net turnover of more than 150 million in the European Union during each of the last 2 consecutive financial years? If yes, if you think that yes, you win 50 points, and if not, you're still at 0. Third question is about your presence in the EU. Does your company have at least 1 subsidiary or branch in the European Union? If so, you win 30 points, and if not, you're still at 0. And last question is differentiated whether you have a subsidiary or a branch. If you have a subsidiary, we're going to look at the size of it. So does your European subsidiary meet at least 2 of the following criteria? If it has more than 250 employees in the EU, you have 10 points. If it has an annual net turnover exceeding 40 million in the EU, you have 10 points. If it has a balance sheet total exceeding 20 million in the EU, you have 10 points as well. And for those who has an European branch, does your European branch generate a net turnover of more than 40 million in the EU during the last financial year? If yes, you win 30 points, and if not, you win 0 points. Now let's see the results. So if you are adding up all your score points and you have more than 80 points, good news, you are required to comply with CSRD. Congrats. If you are below, so between 80 and 85, you are most likely to comply with CSRD in the coming years. And if you are under 80, then you are not. You don't have to comply with CSRD right now. But that would definitely be something that you want to look into. So even if CSRD never applies directly to your company, there is a specific voluntary standards that are already being developed for SMEs by the European Commission. Why is that? It's because larger companies, those who need to comply with CSRD, will need reliable sustainability data from their value chain. So if you're part of their supply chain, they will be looking into your detailed data on your emissions and practices and impact. So this is not a compliant issue, it's also a business opportunity. So maybe to double click on that one, we see a lot of opportunities and actionable business opportunities with comply with CSRD, even if you're not required to. Some requirements of CSRD are actually kind of core strategy for sustainability, and you can show leadership on that in that sense. For example, the double materiality assessment will help you redefine your success metrics and kind of embrace metrics that reflect long-term strategy and resilience. The rigorous data management that you can do will unlock new business potential and reveal as well operational efficiency and innovation. And with the global transition to transparency, we're seeing standards trying to become interoperable. So you are basically decreasing the risk of non-compliance and attracting talent as well. For those who are not, maybe Judy, you can tell us more about the regulation and its impact on US companies.
Sure. So you're probably wondering what exactly it is and who needs to comply. The Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive is laying down the rules on corporate sustainability disclosure within the European Union. And it incorporates 3 dimensions, as you can see in this diagram to the right. So it covers 3 categories of topics: environmental, social, and governance. It's organized by 4 reporting areas: governance, strategy, impact, which includes risk and opportunity management, and also metrics and targets. And finally, there are going to be 3 reporting layers. The sector agnostic disclosures are available and in use now. The sector-specific disclosures are currently in draft form, and they haven't released a date yet for when those will be available, but they will be released in staggered phases. And finally, the company-specific disclosures on unique business types would follow that. So who needs to comply? So obviously, all large companies operating in the EU, as well as all EU-listed companies, excluding micro companies. But this webinar is focused on the US, so we're looking at the criteria for non-EU companies with EU operations. As you learned through the icebreaker exercise, and again, spelled out here, that includes companies with securities on EU regulated markets and companies
Judy, I apologize. Is wondering if people are having I can see the screens. We seem to be experiencing some technical problems. And looks we might have lost Noemi.
Yeah, it seems, we lost her connection. Yeah.
Okay, let me try and share the screen. Let me see if it goes through.
Yeah.
Oh,
There we
thank
go.
you, Hadrian.
This is how you know that this is a live presentation.
So to pick up where I left off, also companies generating more than 150 million euros in annual net turnover within the EU and have either a large or listed EU subsidiary or an EU branch with more than 40 million euros in turnover. So clearly this is going to be a time and resource consuming exercise. And even if you're not required to report on CSRD, there are several reasons to consider doing it. First of all, it can provide a comprehensive view of risks and opportunities. Your peers might be doing it and they may gain competitive advantage. There may also be several stakeholder pressures, potentially from investors, customers, consumers, or employees, to be on top of sustainability issues and to be transparent about them. And finally, if you're in the supply chain of a company that needs to report, you might soon be required to provide similar information. So Urvashi, what is the current state of play?
Thank you, Judy, for that description of CSRD. And the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, CSRD, is supported by the European Sustainability Reporting Standards. I'm introducing another acronym, the ESRS. And ESRS outlines the disclosure requirements for the companies within the CSRD scope. And it includes some major new accountabilities and disclosures in environmental, social, and governance topics. So ESRS holds companies accountable for environmental impacts, risks, and opportunities across their value chain and also up the board level. And say, for example, some of the new accountabilities are that companies will need to report on whether the performance of the leadership or supervisory teams has been assessed against greenhouse gas emission reduction targets, as an example. Board now has a duty of care. Some of the new environmental disclosure areas include a disclosure of transition plans and scenario analysis. Companies will have to report on, assess, and then report on financial effects from material impacts, risks, and opportunities from climate, pollution, water, marine resources, circular economy, etc. And they're also expected to report on policies and actions they have in place to mitigate these impacts, risks, and opportunities, which I will call IROs for short from now on. And as Judy, you mentioned, they also have to have targets, and they cover a wide range of metrics. Some familiar ones may be greenhouse gas emissions, water use, etc., but some of the new ones may be biodiversity and ecosystem services. Beyond environmental, companies also have to address social issues and along their value chain. And in this case, say corporate culture now is part of governance and has to be reported on. Some of the disclosures include the data that extends beyond supply chain to value chain, which includes non-employees, workers in the value chain, consumers, end users. It's due diligence at a value chain level, and also reporting or disclosure of value chain engagement, along with some new human rights impacts. There's also new social and governance vocabulary. It's expanded. For example, ESRS includes just transition, impacts on workforce or mitigating measures, transitions, IROs in the value chain. It also defines affected stakeholders and includes things like reporting on supplier relationship, including payment practices. So all this is to say that the exercise is much more comprehensive. It's wider and deeper. And so what does this mean for companies? So beyond the new requirements on impact on IROs that I just spoke about, sustainability is or ESG reporting is, or CSRD reporting, it will shift sustainability reporting and data collection to a comprehensive company-wide effort that doesn't only involve the sustainability team, but also the CFO, COO, compliance, legal, business unit leaders, board of directors, and key functional SMEs and for the entire value chain. And finally, sustainability will be as important as sustainability reporting rather, will be as important as financial reporting, especially with third-party assurance being required as part of CSRD. So this is already a reality of reporting for some of your European peers. But Judy will go through. Could you please go through the timeline that for the CSRD regulation implementation? And it's closer than you think. So
great.
I think what's interesting here is that there's already so many different disclosures for CSRD, but it's always evolving. So kind of staying on top of those is important. And the other thing is, I feel like this is yet more acronyms, right, that we're adding to our long list of acronyms that we see in sustainability. Raji, is it right to kind of think about CSRD as being the directive and ESRS as being the guideline?
Yeah, so CSRD, it's the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. So that's kind of the rule that manages the reporting, and ESRS are the actual framework or the metrics you can think of, the questions that you need to answer that are provided by ESRS. And I'm going to throw another acronym. The European Commission commissioned the European Financial Reporting Advisory Group, or EFRAG, to create the ESRS.
So EFRAG is the organization behind the guidelines.
Yes.
Okay, so you're probably wondering, when is this being rolled out and when do US companies need to start reporting? So we put together this diagram that shows what types of businesses would need to report and when. If you look across the top, the years in white are when the report would need to be published. There doesn't seem to be any specific time of year required. And then the years in green are the fiscal year of data that would need to be covered. The reporting requirement will start in 2026 for relevant US companies described here that have EU entities. And the CSRD coverage will only be required for those EU entities. But starting in 2029, all company types listed here will have to report on their entire enterprise 2028 data, not just the EU entities. So you'll have this deck and you can look into the specifics for who is relevant here. And now I'm going to give it back to Urvashi to explain the steps you need to follow to be ready in time.
Yeah, thanks, Judy. And 2029 may seem a long ways away, but as I mentioned, it is closer than you think. Given the complexity and the scope of the reporting requirement, we strongly recommend that you start now. So 2024, spend this year or whatever remains of this year to understand the broad requirements. We recommend that by the end of 2024, our latest beginning of 2025, you evaluate your current resources and practices and define a scope of work for CSRD compliance readiness, whether it's it is a hiring of external consultants through RFPs or developing internal expertise. And in 2025, we recommend that it be about identifying data and formulating strategy, get a detailed CSRD readiness assessment, craft a comprehensive reporting strategy and a roadmap, which includes a double materiality assessment. We'll come to that a little bit later. Naomi mentioned it earlier as well. You define your KPIs, map your data sources, and it's a long process. This is expected to take anywhere between 8 to 10 months, depending on the scale and the size of the company. And doing this in 2025 will enable you to focus on developing processes and building systems for data in 2026. So establish robust systems for data collection, verification, compliance, including legal review, third-party assurance. And then following this timeline, then 2027 would be the first year that you are able to collect the data that you've identified to be material and relevant to include in the CSRD reporting. And during 2027, that's the time for continuous monitoring, adjustment of data collection processes, et cetera. And hopefully by the end of the year, you're done with all that. And then even though the first CSRD compliant report is due in 2029, we believe that producing a preliminary report a year earlier will give you an opportunity to fine-tune the processes and obtain early feedback. So we strongly recommend doing that dry run, if you will, report in 2028 for 2027 data that you've collected. And then this multi-year preparation approach will really leave you a smooth transition to the mandatory CSRD reporting that you'll have to start in 2029.
Thank you so much for sharing. You want to add something?
Yeah, I was just going to say it's useful, just to kind of add on to what you're saying, Rashi, it's useful to get sort of that practice, right, early on and get the right processes in place. And I think it also goes back to what we were talking about earlier, which is the value behind complying with CSRD. And Judy, just thinking about our conversation yesterday, you don't necessarily have to, even if you don't have to comply today, right, you don't necessarily have to do everything. You can pick bits and pieces, maybe start with a double materiality assessment. And one of the ways that you can sort of get traction internally, because sometimes we see now maybe kind of getting the resources or the buy-in, there can be a little bit of pushback sometimes, really focusing on the value that it brings sort of beyond compliance. So everything that, everybody's touched on already, but I think the key things are, one, we're going to see these trickle-down effects within the industry, so increased market pressure. All of the companies that do have to comply with CSRD are going to be looking at their value chain, and this is where most of their Scope 3 emissions are going to be. And even if it's not required, we expect that they will start asking more questions and looking at their supply chains to follow, a similar process. And the other main benefit behind doing this exercise is really to make better long-term strategic decisions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, very interesting to see how CSRD is expanding across borders, across companies that need to comply. So maybe double clicking on the double materiality assessment that is very specific to CSRD. Can you tell us more about what it means to evaluate what's sustainability topics, what is the impact of sustainability topics on your companies, and what is your as a company impact on sustainability?
Sure. A lot of people may be familiar with the term materiality. So materiality assessment really is a widely used approach to help you identify, as a company, to identify, assess, and prioritize sustainability risks, opportunities, and impacts for the purposes of either sustainability strategy or reporting. And like I said, you may be familiar with single materiality assessment, especially those who are used to GRI frameworks, for example. So double materiality just adds another set of relevant issues from an external perspective. So basically, double materiality means that businesses should report on financially material topics that influence enterprise value. So single materiality type considerations. They consider the company's impacts inwards for investors, employees. And the other component is that you also have to consider topics where the company has an impact or a potential impact, negative or positive, on the economy, environment, and people. So considers the company's impacts outwards for multiple stakeholders. So it's not like if you think of it as a Venn diagram, it's not only the overlap of the area of the Venn diagram where you only include relevant issues that are relevant for both enterprise value and external impact, but it's also either of the two. So you include the overlap, but you also have to include those that only impact the enterprise value or only have an external impact. So it's kind of more comprehensive. And just to end, I like to say that materiality or double materiality analysis, what it is and what probably it's not. So what it is that it's a process to identify and prioritize sustainability issues. And it goes back to Hadrian and what Hadrian you were saying and what Judy, you said and Naomi said in the beginning. So it helps you prioritize sustainability issues that are most impactful to a company. It provides a relative ranking to guide strategy, foster internal alignment based on shared priorities and business rationale, and also incorporates insights from diverse stakeholders on business and societal impacts. So which can be key beyond, compliance or CSRD compliance reporting. I'll end with saying that what it is not, which is as important to understand what it's not as it is to understand what it is. So double materiality is not an exact science. So expert judgment definitely needs to be incorporated to complement any modeling that we do. It's not a perspective. It does not dictate specific actions that a company must take on each issue. It just gives you an understanding of what your impacts, risks, and opportunities are inward and outward. And even though it provides a ranking of the issues in terms of relevance and materiality, it is not an evaluation tool. It does not measure how well the company is performing on these issues. Hopefully that was a good summary, but happy to answer any questions that have already come up or will come up later.
Chris, thank you so much, Arashi. That was very useful for understanding double materiality. Maybe we have a little poll running, and I can see that here in the call, 40% need either to comply with CSRD or will be likely to comply with CSRD. So for those who are wondering how to get prepared, how to get ready, what's the journey in front of you, we're going to dig a bit into that question and how the compliance journey looks like for US companies. Maybe Hadrian, you can tell us more about that.
Yep. So we've gone over exactly what is CSRD and what is a double materiality assessment. So you're probably wondering how do you actually comply now? So this is a checklist that you can follow. This is sort of outlines the typical process for complying with CSRD. So everything starts with the double materiality assessment, right? Because really that's what's going to guide the rest of the process and let you know what's actually material. After that comes the measurement of your greenhouse gas emissions and data collection. And sometimes those two steps are combined together. And around data collection, this is going to be both a mix of quantitative data, so things like what are your scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 emissions, as well as qualitative. And other frameworks have a similar version of this, right? So if we compare it to TCFD or SASB, they call it something a little bit different. I think it could be metrics and data disclosure or data integration. But the idea is sort of the same. And the reason that CSRD calls it data collection is because there's just so many. It's one of the most comprehensive out there. So there's a lot more focus on that collection aspect. But it's essentially what you're going to have to disclose. Once you've completed the data collection step, the next one is a gap analysis. And this one's optional. So it's not required, but we would highly recommend it. And it's essentially looking at all the results of your double materiality assessment, seeing the data that you've collected, making sure that you're following those ESRS guidelines, and identifying any gaps in your reporting, so that you can either go back and fill in those gaps or provide a justification. And Arashi and Judy, I know you guys have worked with a lot of clients on this, but I know one of our recommendations is to either use a third party or at least have the person who's doing the gap analysis be, somebody different than the person who's leading the data collection project. Does that reflect what you've seen as well?
Judy, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, I mean, it's not required, but I think you'll get a lot more value out of having multiple perspectives.
And then there's always that assurance step that comes after that. So it is required to have third-party verification on top of that. So everything that comes before is really getting ready for that step, and then comes the final submission.
Yeah, I think I would just add a couple of things. One is that I know you started double materiality. I think it's an important point to start there because, instead of seeing it as like something onerous, which it is expensive in terms of resources, time, but it really helps you focus in on things that are relevant for the company instead of like having a whole smorgasbord of things that to report on. So it helps you focus. So I think that that kind of helps, that it's the first step in the process, and then which kind of leads and flows into the rest of data collection and then submission.
Yeah. And I realized with this checklist, might have given the impression that it's very easy to just follow the checklist, and just want to acknowledge the complexity behind it. And it's probably a good segue, because I know you've worked, talked with a lot of companies that are either going through their CSRD compliance process or thinking about it. Can you maybe share some of the challenges that you've seen now?
Yes, definitely. So to give you an overview of what it looks like in reality, there are challenges that companies encounter when trying to embark on the compliance journey. So you mentioned double materiality is obviously a first big challenge. It can be complex to identify and evaluate both financial and non-financial impacts, and especially when it comes to your value chain. But data collection and consistency is as well a real challenge for companies. A study by EcoVadis found that 55% of companies identify data availability and quality as significant obstacles to CSRD implementation. So it's a thing. Then there is the scoping difficulties, because we know it's involving your subsidiaries or branch in the EU, but then at some point it will comes down to your entire company. So they are subject about collaboration. Then there is this challenge of guidance and interpretation, just to understand and navigate the ESRS framework. It can be complex and can require expert assistance. There are challenges around integration with existing reporting, existing ESG reporting that you might already be conducting at your company, and that has common block with the CSRD, but needs definitely to complete those blocks. Time pressure is a challenge as well, with the first compliance date coming very soon next year. Cross-functional collaboration when it comes to effective compliance and coordination across various departments. It's not only sustainability now, it's compliance, legal, finance, and ESG teams needed to work hand in hand to get that process validated. And decision on reporting options is also strategic. Choosing between integrated or standalone sustainability reports is a question that you might want to consider. So to kind of overcome these challenges, you should prioritize choosing the solution that is the most tailored to your current operation, and to align internally and seek expert support for that.
All right, so you're probably wondering how to tackle these challenges. So one option is to use tools, and we're a big fan of tools at Greenly. A good tool can help save time and money, and we built one. It's called the Greenly CSRD module. And I thought I would share, I guess, a couple things to look for in a good tool. And these are also principles that are good to keep in mind if you're planning on doing something in-house as well. So the first one is for the double materiality assessment. You want to make sure that it's aligned with the ESRS guidelines. And there's two reasons for that. So one, for compliance reasons, it's highly recommended. And second, the guidelines that they've put forward are probably one of the most comprehensive guidelines out there when it comes to double materiality assessments. So it's just a very good framework to align to. The second one goes without saying. You want a tool that helps save time and makes you more productive. So, and one of the ways that the Greenly tool helps with that is it kind of takes all the research and the guessing out of the equation. So the time you would normally spend trying to figure out, what is CSRD, what are the different disclosures, how do you comply with different frameworks, a tool can help you essentially, guide you step by step, making sure you're following all the right steps, and so you don't have to worry about, am I doing this right? And then sort of the second aspect is just leveraging technology to speed up and automate as many things as you can, whether it's there's a lot of disclosures and there's a lot of questions and sort of data points that need to be collected as part of the double materiality assessment and the data collection phase. So be able to pre-filter as much as you can and so streamline the data collection and interview process. Another really critical piece is compliance, which seems sort of simple on the surface, but when we talk about compliance, it's also this concept of are you following the right guidelines? And two, is it fully auditable? And when we think about auditability, it's about making things reproducible. And with reproducibility, it's a bit of a spectrum, right? And this is something that we'll come back to and give some tips on how to make sure that things is fully auditable. But at the end of the day, you want to make sure that when an auditor reviews your double materiality assessment or your greenhouse gas assessment, they can look at the output and understand all the inputs that went into it. And then last but not least, having a tool or a team that's not just focused on delivering the results, but can also act as a knowledge hub or a repository and essentially help you stay on top of all of the regulations and all the changes that are coming down the pipeline.
Very interesting. Thank you, Hadrian. For the Greenly solution that we developed, we were actually the first to market a tech solution for CSRD. So now our customer base for CSRD has been growing a lot, and we are now serving more than 50 companies in their CSRD journey. So a quick overview of what the tool might look like and what key features it's embedding. The first feature is obviously to support you to conduct your double materiality assessment. The workflow is designed to guide you through the process and follow the ESRS guidelines. The platform allows you as well to have consolidated data collection. A plus would be for you to have your GHG assessment already input in the platform so that we can source it and directly fill in the environmental ESRS, and social and governance data can be as well aggregated on the platform, and we guide you through that. A tool will also give you a great power to manage your task and to follow and track your progress in your CSRD compliance. You will be able to assign different tasks to your collaborators from across your different teams and functions to make sure that the right stakeholders are engaged, and this could be as well true for your value chain. As Hadrian was mentioning, the audit-ready version of the tool is a very important one to make sure that the data is secure and reliable, and to make sure that we can basically trace back any output to your input. And for compliance, we have an automated export of sustainability report in the right format that is asked by the CSRD. And if you don't know where to look at when you're beginning, we can reach out for a demo and we can take you through this process. So maybe to wrap up a bit and open a conversation, ask any questions that can come up in the chat. We wanted to kind of discuss this question, that is, what future trends do you see in sustainability reporting, compliance, and carbon management? I can kick off with some of my ideas, but basically, I think that future key trends is an increased conversion of standards that we are trying to make consistent worldwide with initiatives like ISSB and CSRD that are collaborating on making sure we have more unified global approach to sustainability reporting. This will likely reduce fragmentation, but demand even greater precision and transparency in disclosure. There is definitely this digital transformation in ESG, where we see advanced tools powered by AI and machine learning that help you companies streamline data collection. But we definitely see that expertise in sustainability and change management is a key block that can help, that can work, that can have synergies with a tool. Definitely talking about our partnership with SIA Partners. And one maybe last insight I have in head would be the power of Scope 3 ownership. Definitely when you're going to shift to a value chain collaboration and companies that can compete and have the ability to influence their upstream and downstream partners will show a lot of leadership.
Yeah, and maybe to piggyback on that, I think that we're going to see just increased pressure, generally speaking, in the market for more sustainability and tracking and just transparency in general, and that pressure is coming from a few different places. So there's legislative pressure, like we're seeing with CSRD and things in the US, like SB 253 in California, and some of the other laws that are being passed in New York. But sort of the other really big driver there, we're saying, which you were alluding to, is really coming from companies and as well as end users. So we're seeing it both in the B2B market and the B2C market. And the way we've been seeing that manifest itself is companies are trying to reduce their climate risk, and they're trying to lower their Scope 3 emissions, and they're doing that by engaging with their supply chains. And we're seeing sort of large companies starting to do that and having a really big impact, and sort of spurring companies that may not have thought about sustainability to start investing in those areas. So I think that partnership maybe that you were talking about, engaging with your suppliers and your clients too, so that it's more of a partnership, and you figure out how you can work together to lower your overall environmental footprint, is probably one of the things that we'll see moving forward.
I think, I think to add to that, I think the audiences, all the stakeholders, if you think of all the stakeholders, even, in the US, you may feel that the regulatory environment may not be as, you don't expect it to be as robust maybe in the short term. However, like you said, regulations are coming in Europe and certain states in the US, but beyond that, I think it is where the employees are meeting employee expectations or potential employees' expectations, raters and rankers, customers, consumers, and even from investors and civil society. The pressure is building, so that companies remain on top of sustainability issues and then are transparent about them in terms of reporting. I think there was a survey from Harvard Business School review that 74% of employees would consider leaving their job if the company wasn't meeting sustainability expectations, for example, right? So, and there are multiple metrics like that. About only 7% of global investors say that they don't use sustainability or ESG related data. From a consumer perspective, I think the data might be a couple of years old. It probably is even more robust now that sustainability marketed products, even though they're like less than 20% of the market of the CPG or the consumer product growth market, they grew 3 times as fast in terms of marketed products as relative to the non-sustainable or products that didn't have a sustainability product. So, I mean, all this to say that the trends are there, and sooner or later, companies that are paying attention to these issues are internalizing and thinking about these issues from a strategy and a transparency reporting perspective. The market is definitely driving there.
I can definitely double click on the talent attraction, and I think I can speak for my entire generation there.
Yeah, I think I have a data point for like 75% of millennials would take a pay cut if it
That
meant
doesn't
working for an
surprise me.
environmentally company. Yeah.
Totally. We're very happy to take any questions that you can send over in the chat, and we'll be happy to dig into your situation, any question that you have. So we have a
So we have
Canada. Yeah, go ahead.
So Tatenda is asking, so how do companies really measure and track sustainability performance? That's a good question.
I think that would be relative to the goals they've set as a company, and also any regulations in the country where they reside. So you want to show performance year over year, and then your progress to the goal target year in your report. So the CSRD is more a moment in time, I think, of your current status. I think
there's a few different ways of looking at it. So I think looking at the actual performance metrics, like are you reducing emissions, being as one of the KPIs among many, of course, but that's a great sort of metric to look at. But I think on top of that, you could also just add sort of effort in the sense of just starting with measurement is often just the very first step, and kind of putting those systems in place and saying, we don't know where we currently stand today, but we're going to, put in place the reporting frameworks and get visibility. That in itself is, I think is a sign of strong performance. And once you have that, like Judy was saying, setting an actual target, like something like with the Science-Based Targets Initiative would be a great example, is one of the ways to really measure that over time.
I think typically also companies will pick a benchmark year. It may be different years depending on when they have data available for different things, but we have seen that companies will pick a benchmark year, whether it's the first year they started reporting, whether the first year of ESG report, first year they started collecting a certain type of data, and then to show change year to year. I wouldn't say sometimes it's progress, sometimes there are challenges, and companies explain what the challenges were, but to have a benchmark and a target and then show every year there's a movement, I think that's what we've seen.
Yes, definitely. And measuring, okay, so just to maybe wrap up for this question, definitely measure how to really measure. You can conduct a thorough greenhouse gas assessment. There are a lot of ways to do that, but a tool like Greenly is a solution where you basically enter your activity data of your company, and then this will take you to the emissions that you have on your direct emissions, indirect emissions linked to your activity, and the one linked to your supply chain. Another question from Alejandro. How are you dealing with the XBRL format? Is it a product you are offering in Greenly?
Happy to take that one. So yeah, so XBRL tagging is just something you have to do, right? How you report your responses and all the disclosures of the data for CSRD. So that tagging is done automatically in the Greenly platform as you're submitting it. So you essentially hit a button and it will export the results with the right tagging.
Thanks. Any more question from anyone? Okay, then maybe we can wrap up this session saying, well, we had a great time. I think everyone learned a lot about your experience and expertise on CSRD. Maybe Tatenda has another question, but we'll jump into once she shared it. Just one as well to announce that we have an upcoming webinar on how to handle customer pressure on December 12th. So we'll be very happy to see you there, all of you, to kind of deep dive on what's customer pressure can have impact on your strategy and linked to sustainability reporting as well. And for those based in New York, announcing that Greenly will organize an event on sustainability compliance and reporting. So we'll be very happy to announce you that and invite you to join us.
Yeah, wanted to say thank you everyone for joining us and spending an hour with us. It's a real pleasure. Hopefully this was informative, and we'd love to continue the conversation. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, and we'd love to get in touch.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.